I hit the button. Yeah. So we are live. This is the RedEye stream number 40. We're going to talk about a few news stories, and I plan on bitching about the Cubs. But before I do that, I would like to lead off and say thank you to my Patreons, Redbeard and Tigerson. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. If any of you guys have a channel and want to throw it out there, go ahead.
Yes, I have a channel.
Yep. Yes, he does.
Well,
yes. I can actually vouch for that. I've seen it.
What, you were looking more?
Well, you want to tell them what it is? Maybe your handle? I don't know. Tell them to suck your cock.
That was beautiful.
Yes, we do gimp mask sex on my channel. So if you like gimp masks and sex, call in and say hello.
Oh, bloody hell. See, I stole that one too, Cabbage. You got to start chalking them up, you know. Start writing out
it's all right. We can...
appropriation. This is
no, we're going to charge you for them.
No, check it out. I got one.
Like happy birthday. You plays happy birthday. You got to pay Disney. So every time you use one of our phrases like bloody hell or twat or something, then, you know, you got to pay us.
Well, check it out, Cabbage. I got one kid who's
micropayments.
So
Bitcoin.
No, dude, you got to rack up these cultural appropriation points on my family. I got a Pocahontas. I have a princess. I have my 12-year-old son who's going to be Guy Fawkes. So that's directly to you guys. You got to dock me for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and
Guy Fawkes.
I believe
he was a radical Catholic.
I believe I'm going to put at least one of the babies in blackface. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that would be so fucking funny if you did. That would be great. You know, and teach him how to sing, you know, Mammy or something.
That's horrible.
I'd walk a million miles for one of your smiles.
This is your idea of a Halloween. Send them out from Halloween, just let them wander around the town. Is that your idea?
No, we're
big red lips and a black face.
No, we're trying to embrace other cultures. There, and see. Come on.
No, you know, you can't embrace.
You're trying to get rid of your kids. Is what I think you're going to do. You just let them wander around by themselves.
But isn't embracing a culture actually appropriating it? I mean, isn't this a great contradiction? When you embrace a culture and you adopt it, then you're appropriating it. So it's a cat on a hot tin roof, right? That's how they play this bullshit. It's a cat on a hot tin roof.
When I embrace a culture, it's called rape for some reason.
Yeah, I know. It's odd, isn't it?
But well, you have to ask for permission.
Well, forgiveness.
You can't go on. Oh, man, come on now.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Dude, are you sure you're not Catholic? No.
You had it beaten right out of it.
That's funny. I made that shit up, just to be funny. And my wife comes out here. She's like, "Who's gonna be Pocahontas?" I'm like, "Oh my god, damn it!" There went my joke.
You know, Pocahontas met Queen Victoria. Did you know that? She was welcomed as a head of state, oddly enough, or as a delegate or whatever, an ambassador or something like that. She was given
after she married one of your nobles, yeah.
No, when she was brought over. No, she was given the full treatment. It was all,
I don't know if that's the term you should have used.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's more reflection on your mind. I think that's more about your mind, about what you think treatment is. I was thinking about, regalia and things like that. Yeah. I think, you got a dirty mind.
I wasn't even thinking it from a dirty sense. I was just looking at how the British generally treated other individuals.
Well, Yeah, I tell you, you're a sick man. Sick,
No.
Hi, Lotus.
sick in the... Lotus, how are you? Long time no speakings. Lotus? Yeah, you're good. Fuck me. Why are you silent?
No, and to be fair, Cabbage, that you made your joke right after I made a Harvey Weinstein joke. So, bad timing.
Yeah? Well, you know.
But all right, so the lead story tonight
It is
is
what it is.
Florida put out what is it, a pretty much a state
Oh,
of
it's in a state of emergency, yeah.
yeah
Yeah,
over
they're freaking out. Yeah. It's
over
like Berkeley did with, with Milo and stuff. Same thing.
no, but this is a speech at a university where Richard Spencer is a douchebag. He is.
Yeah. But everyone knows he's a douchebag.
There's nothing I can say to redeem him not being a douchebag.
Well,
But
since he's not here to defend himself, I'll defend him. He's not a douchebag.
Oh, well, you can
Yeah, but
defend
the
him.
point is, right, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if nobody turns up, he's just going to be a douchebag talking to nobody. Like one guy and his dog or something.
Well, people will
and then that'll be nothing, right? The only reason it's an issue is because they're making it an issue, right? If he turns up, look, if I rent a room to go and speak about something and no fucker turns up, then I just look like a twat, right?
That's a great point, and that's what I was trying to get at. Was he paid for
Hey, crazy
spot? He literally paid $10,000 to speak at Florida. Is it Florida University or Florida State? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but supposedly Milo paid 60,000 for security, and he couldn't even do his gig anyway. So
Well, he needs to sue the security firm because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that's what exactly. I mean, that's the whole point. Milo thing was that was pure drama. If you really wanted to have his message, you should have had a backup. And that 60 grand could have gone easily into, a different premises, and he could have still done his speech. So it wasn't about the message; it was about the the whole charade.
But Cabbage, my point would be, how is that a state of emergency? The last state of emergency they had
was not a state of emergency.
It was a hurricane, dude. It's going to knock over houses. Is this guy the big bad wolf? He's going to huff and puff.
No, I can explain why it's going to be why it's a state of emergency, because they're waiting for the black people to burn everything to the ground.
No, to be fair, voice, it's white people in Antifa. It's a bunch of
You're
nerds.
in Scotland. Don't fucking joke. Did you see the other guy who just got arrested in Scotland for making a joke? Be careful.
Well, if there are any Scottish or Northern Irish police listening, go fuck yourselves, because you come to arrest me for Twitter, you're going to get nutted in the head.
Yeah, well, Ireland's adopted the same kind of things that Scotland has. I mean, England has too, because the guy got arrested in Sheffield, I think. In Sheffield or something.
Well, not to get too far off topic, but any word on Dankula? When's his next court date? Speaking of being arrested for stupid crap.
He doesn't have one.
Help with that.
Yeah. He hasn't got one. They can't give him one because they know damn well they're going to look damn foolish, and they're trying to find a way that they can escape it without, the state looking, because the state can't. That's all the state is concerned about now, is not looking foolish, because they raised the case. They have to make him guilty of something, otherwise they become redundant. So,
but I believe we talked about this before. You don't necessarily
just give him they'll just say, I don't know, maybe a fine. They might give him a fine, but a fine for what? And if they do that, it's a precedent, and that's concerning.
But you don't necessarily
really fucking worrying.
Cabbage, though. You don't necessarily have free or oh man.
Now we have hate speech laws.
You cut me off so many times I went blank, god damn it. Due process. That's what I was thinking of. They could
Now we do have due process.
They can't just keep putting them off forever.
Yeah, they can. Who the fuck is clacking? Who's the clacker?
Wait, what?
Somebody is clacking away. There's a lot of clapping. Who's the keyboard masher?
Yeah, don't look at me, lads.
I'm not looking at you. Somebody's fucking mashing keys, though. Anyway, yeah. The courts, they can pretty much, I mean, they can delay it as long as they want. They can always say that they're going to, you know, postpone, and they have done it 3 times. I think it's 4 times now. They just keep doing it. And the only reason they're doing it is because they've got to find a way that they can get out of looking foolish for doing the thing in the first place, you know, for arresting the guy. And now they got 2 other people that, you know, are arrested for the same thing, just for just for tweets. For fuck's sake. What has the world become? He arrested for a tweet. Meanwhile, you know, a rape victim. I mean, you know, we've got rape gangs going on all over the place.
Actually,
and you got someone being arrested
Travis,
for a fucking tweet.
One of the people who was involved in the Rotherham rape, one of the Muslim guys who was pimping out those children, he got 2 years and is now out. So
it doesn't matter. What was his Twitter feed like? That's what matters.
Well, that's it. Like, apparently, it's actually more acceptable to rape a child than it is to send a tweet.
Yeah. Fucking ridiculous. I tell you, the world's gone mad.
Well,
I was just the UK.
Insane.
Go ahead, Max.
I said just the UK.
Well, I think.
Well,
I would.
Well, no, Europe. The whole of Europe. Look at Sweden. Look at Sweden. Sweden's gone completely off the fucking rails.
No,
and Germany as well.
Yeah.
I would say that Florida has gone insane to connect this back to Richard Spencer. Okay, the dude, once again, voiced, you can have your defense of him in a second. You can rebut me. But I believe his ideas are useless. There's not going to be a white ethno state. It's not going to happen. You can't get rid of a bunch of minorities just because you want them gone. But that being said, you have free speech. You can go talk whatever crap you want. I could sit here on YouTube and I could talk about how I hate the income tax and how I freaking love the non-aggression principle. And I can argue against freaking public subsidized roads, and I can do whatever I want. He also, in that right, gets to rail against anything that's not white nationalism. He can say and do whatever he wants as long as it doesn't violate somebody else's freedom, as long as he doesn't hurt another individual. He gets to spew whatever hatred he wants. Boys, go ahead, and then the rest of the panel. There's a couple of people here. I have talked to Lotus before and Max, of course, but I do not think I've ever talked to you, Crazy Cat. So I would like to hear your perspective on this. And if you have a YouTube channel, throw it in the side chat and shout it out on air. But Voice, go ahead and lead off.
Well, it's like this, and I'm not going to defend the man himself, but let's be honest, how are his ideas anything different than Black Lives Matter or Antifa? He's judging people on the race. He wants to separate people by the race, and that is exactly what the left, Antifa, and Black Lives Matters want to do. I mean, it's Black Lives Matter on college campuses who's actually got somehow their own buildings because they're black. Now, if Richard Spencer wants to go that way and say, I now want white-only college dorms, then that is a perfectly acceptable position considering the left's position. That's the thing I would say.
Yeah, and if anybody else wants to respond to that, we can go down the line.
Oh, no.
I mean, I agree with him too, but I mean, if Richard Spencer is paying for this, which apparently he is, all right, from what you said, then his whole purpose is to create a situation where he can create havoc. Both sides, the far left and the far right, win with violence. Okay, they both strengthen with violence, and that's what he's trying to create now. He's gone. Now he may not start it technically, all right, but his purpose is to try and create an atmosphere to create violence. It's not about free speech with him.
I have never heard him explicitly call for violence, Richard Spencer. I have seen him be a victim of violence.
Well, and that's the whole point. To become a victim, to sit up there and go, look at me, I'm a victim. All right. It wouldn't surprise me if he would parade around if somebody shot him in the leg and it had to be amputated, if he walked around with the amputated leg waving it around as, look at me, I'm a victim. All right. It's all about how he and his movement can gain power. And they will be violent. Trust me.
Yeah, but doesn't he have a right to speak? Is my point. I am explicitly free speech. I really.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a right to speak. I'm just saying, why is he doing this? Well, this is what he's doing. He's doing it for violent purposes. He's trying to sit up there and gin up violence, in my opinion. Now, does he have a right to speak? Does he? Yes. I mean, people have a right to do a lot of vile things. Okay, as far as I'm concerned. And this is just, I mean, somebody with his type of ideology is an example of that. But that doesn't mean that his goal is nonviolence. That doesn't mean his goal is not, it's not served by violence, because it is.
Well, I have a couple questions. One, now, I don't believe in the rhetoric that's coming from Black Lives Matter, just like I don't believe the rhetoric coming from Richard Spencer. But there is a thing in Star Wars where they say a balance to the Force. Don't you think the balance will drive more people to the center? Or do you think it's going to drive more people to the extremes?
What's history shown?
Well, it shows that a very silent minority is in the middle, or a majority is in the middle, and loud, outspoken firebrands to the outskirts.
Okay.
But they usually lead the revolutions, is what you're trying to get at, right?
No, I'm saying if you're expecting leadership from the middle, all right, let's see it. I don't see any leadership from the middle at this point in time. Do you? So if you don't have leadership in the middle, people will follow leaders. That's the way it's always been. One of my instructors in leadership school, right, was a guy from the Dominican Republic, and he was there when the United States basically reinvaded, all right, due to debts and an issue that was going on. He told us this story. He said his father came in with guns, handed each of his children, these are 12-year-old and 13-year-old children, a gun, and said, I don't care what side you fight on, just pick a side and fight, because if you don't, you'll be squished if you try to stay in the middle. That's reality.
Well, here's another version of reality. In South Africa, there's white farmers that are mainly Dutch and English being slaughtered because they're white.
I think they're being insulted by calling them Dutch and English. They consider themselves South Africans.
Is that why they've been begging to go back? Like, I've seen articles where they're literally saying, we're going to get murdered. Can we come back to Europe?
Well, I mean, I imagine that they're fleeing, but that doesn't mean they don't consider themselves South Africans.
That's a very good point, and I'm sure Conscious Carousel would have probably laid into me right there. So, very good point, sir. Not to name drop Carousel, even though he is cool. So, go subscribe.
Say it correctly.
Carousel, whatever. I don't say anything correctly. I always fuck up, something. But no, there is literally real murder going on, and we have people in America rioting over words. Doesn't that bother you a little bit? It kind of pisses me off.
Well, of course it bothers me. I mean, you still have to accept what the reality is. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have bothered me for a long time. It's part of learning to deal with disappointment. It's part of learning to be an adult. Yeah, there's things that are going to bother you. I mean, but you still have to accept that that's the reality of the situation. So you got to then look at, okay, how can I affect this in a positive way? And someone like Spencer, to an extent, yes, being contrarian can point out some of the problems within society, right? There's nothing wrong with that as far as it goes. However, you got to realize that within society, there's groups of people that are followers. There's groups of people that are leaders, and when you have multiple leaders on multiple sides, well, that's great. That's wonderful. But when you have a polarization, which is what you're seeing now, all right, you're not seeing people in the middle stand up and saying, hey, enough is enough. What you're seeing is, initially I thought that was what was happening in Berkeley, I'll be honest with you. But that seems to have faded away now. And we're back to the polarization between on one side and the other. And as the leaders gravitate on the poles, they're going to drag their followers with them. Whether the people in the middle resist that and create leaders of themselves, that's fine. But they'd better be ready to stand up for their positions, because they're going to catch it from all sides. Just like the Antifa slogan, the left gets the bullet too. There's absolute intolerance, and it's not just Antifa. There's absolute intolerance on the right as well. Don't forget that.
I'm not sure if Spencer is to the right. I keep subscribing to this false dichotomy. There is no real left and right when it comes between Republicans and Democrats. The real left and right is totalitarianism and anarchy. That's the real pendulum. And I sit as close as I can get to anarchy without being an anarchist. So
I think you got more than just your toe dipped into that water, dude.
But maybe. I haven't jumped. I haven't freaking belly flopped in there yet. Go ahead, Max. I heard you try to talk.
Oh, no, that's right. I was just, I don't know.
No, I do have a question for you guys, though. Is it possible that Spencer, David Duke, a lot of these so-called neo-Nazis or, I don't know, Klan members were actually funded by the government to raise this unrest, to help with the gun control agenda? Or am I just been watching too much of the Outer Light and other conspiracy theory sites?
Well, there is serendipity, so probably.
Well, like David Duke disappeared for what, 15 years, and now he's back suddenly, like walking with Richard Spencer and shit. Who dug him out of the crack house? I mean, really?
Right?
Yeah, this seems crazy to me. Voice, are you back from getting coffee? Anything else you got to say on Richard Spencer, or should I talk about this other article?
Well, I mean, if you got David Duke coming out of the woodwork to team up with Richard Spencer, all right. Now, David Duke is an avowed KKK member, all right. And if he's walking hand in hand with Richard Spencer, that should give you an idea of what the idea between how they look at this. They look at this as a power kind of move to put them back in the national forefront. Now, let's be honest. I don't think that I don't think they're going to gain anything. I think they'll remain a fringe element just because of the nature of the United States. But it's still something you have to watch. Don't underestimate this. Just like you watch the Antifa, doing their push-ups and their quote unquote training regimen, all right, that they had going on from Chicago, okay, and you laugh about it because it's a joke, and it is, all right. However, it's something that bears watching, because as they continue, they will learn, they will adjust, and they will modify. All right, and these kind of movements can build. So you have to be vigilant about them. You have to watch them. Now, do I think that this thing in Florida deserves a reaction, a state of emergency or anything like that? No, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. nothing was going to happen. I think that to any kind of large scale manner, right? However, like I said before, I do think that was a hope by Richard Spencer to create that kind of an environment to increase his following. The fact that it hasn't happened, at least not yet, all right, indicates that it was pretty much a failure.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that speech is scheduled to take place. I think it's in the next week or so, right? The Richard Spencer thing, or was that today or something? Like I said, I was watching the Dodger game all evening.
I'm not sure exactly when it's scheduled or if it's happened yet. Well, and it's just, keep an eye on it. That's all you can do.
But no, and to prove that there is a straight up dichotomy going on here, there is bad people on both sides, and one side tries to talk, which is Spencer and his ilk, and another side goes automatically to violence, which would be the Black Lives Matter side. So, I mean, really, these two sides are about the same, but a little bit different. And Black Lives Matter is allowed, and Antifa is allowed to destroy cities. Do you think if there was a mob? Okay, let me put it this way. You know those tiki torch holding fucking idiots? Now, if they, instead of we're holding tiki torches, were holding sledgehammers and proceeded to loot, do you think there would be the same reaction as the Antifa people doing it in the mainstream media, or even a government reaction? Would they stand by and let that happen, the police force?
Well, once again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say like in Charlottesville, but that was it. So go for it.
Well, it's not a matter of always necessarily of who's allowing what. Now, you have to take a look at who the politicians are that are in control of the local police forces. All right, you can't paint with a wide swath and say this is the government. All right, when we have many forms of government and each one has its own viewpoint and so forth. Okay, and each one has its own authority. So I don't think it's fair to say, okay, this is all part of the quote unquote government. It might be some officials, and yeah, there's going to be some officials that would allow this kind of stuff. Are there some officials on the right that would allow this? Probably not, but the only reason for that, all right, is the fact that the mainstream media is so heavily to the left, they know that they would be called out. This is why it's so critically important to have an honest and free media. Now, I'm not saying that they can't be leftist or anything, but they can't be so dominated by one side, right, that the other side feels emboldened to do whatever they want while one side feels totally curtailed. Both sides should be feeling curtailed. Both sides should fear the people. Unfortunately, the media in this case, right, most of the mainstream media has chosen a side, and that's what's happening. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about the polarization.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some reason, the screen sharing is not really working that well right now. So I'm just going to read off part of this article. So, police, bus passenger attacked disabled white man while screaming about slavery.
What?
Yeah. So, when was the last time America had slavery? When did it end, MC? Come on, we both know, but go ahead and say.
1865.
Thank you very much. All right, and that was way beyond this man's lifetime. He is 27. So, a disabled white man was attacked on a Maryland mass transit bus by an African American who seemed to be blaming the victim for putting his ancestors into slavery, according to the police. What? Okay, let me read that again a little bit slower. Seemed to be blaming the victim for putting his ancestors into slavery. Now, how did this disabled 52-year-old man put his family into slavery? MC, enlighten me.
What am I supposed to be enlightening you on? You want me to explain a nut?
Does the disabled man have a freaking time travel machine, a time machine, a DeLorean? I mean,
Maybe that's why he's
did he do
disabled. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe. Like, really though,
I didn't know that
like,
time travel is how you get disabled. Now I know.
yeah. My God, what is wrong with people? All right, so we'll go a little bit deeper here. The 52-year-old victim was a passenger on a Metro bus in D.C., a suburb of Silver Spring, Maryland, when Marquise Evans Royster, 27, began spitting in his face and hurling racial epithets at him. The harassment began almost immediately after Evans Royster boarded a bus without paying the fare. Voice of one, I know you got something to say on this. So homeboy gets on the bus, right? He doesn't pay his fare. He sees a disabled white man who's like 52 and he's 27, so 15 years older than him or some shit right now. And he just immediately spits in his face and attacks him. What? Like, okay, maybe.
Which state did this happen in? Could you say?
It's not a state. It is the District of Columbia, Washington.
Well, where's that? DC.
Yeah, it's in the middle of Maryland, but it is Washington D.C.
Yeah, it's like the square mile of London. It's like the square mile of London, mate.
27. He's probably an out-of-work millennial who did a Black History degree. Was pissed off about it.
Yeah, didn't turn into a $100,000, fucking Sex and the City.
Again, you just get cowards out there who will attack someone simply because their car the guy couldn't defend. In fact, was there no one else in this bus? Did no one else give this fucker a good kicking?
Well, no, and once again, how did this man put his ancestors into slavery? For all you know, his ancestors immigrated here in the 1870s, or
exactly. Yeah, but you don't need proof. It's skin, right? I mean, that's what they're bringing it all down to. This is the whole point. They're not talking about the content of the character.
Oh man, I hate it when you go out like that when you're making a great point, because I totally agree with you. It's the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And how exactly did people forget what he said? And the I Have a Dream speech, Martin Luther King Jr. or whatever.
That's because the left these days don't understand what Martin Luther said. I mean, Steve Shives did a video not so long ago where he quoted Martin Luther King, and yet he does the exact opposite of what Martin Luther King, I think it was Jr. actually said it, to judge someone on the content of the character. So they don't understand what that speech means. And again, not only is it the point you made there that this fucking scumbag attacked a handicapped person, but once again, I think it says a lot that no one on that bus says, "Hey, boy, cut that shit out."
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Let's look a little deeper and see if somebody broke it up. All right. So he boarded without paying the fare, which you didn't comment on. Good job. I was baiting you there. You didn't take the bait.
Sorry, I actually misheard. I didn't hear that wee bit. Cheap ass nigger.
Oh, damn it. All right.
You wanted to trigger me, Mod? Well, it's done now.
Yeah, I got what I was asking for. The victim, who is homeless and remains unnamed in reports, initially tried to ignore Evan Royster's taunts but finally tried to push the attacker away when he began to go through the victim's pockets while yelling, "Oh my God, really?" Okay, now I'm getting triggered. All right, let me calm down and go back a sentence here. All right, he tried to ignore his taunts, but finally tried to push the attacker away when he began to go through the victim's pockets while yelling, "You owe me for making my grandmother a slave." When other passengers began to try to intervene to stop Evans from attacking the victim, the attacker threatened to douse them with urine. What?
Now, I don't want to judge us on racial lines, but was this just a crazy guy? Does it say in the article if he was actually, ran away from a facility?
Not yet. I will continue if you want. Wow. Oh, well, here you go. Somebody thought the same way as you, man. So, the threat caused one bus rider to tell the media that Evans must also have some sort of mental problem. Who carries around a bottle of urine? Bus rider Desi Carlton soft or scuffed.
Maybe he didn't have a bottle of urine. Maybe he was just going to whip it out and spray them.
At length, the bus driver threatened to call police, causing Evans to jump off the bus and run away. Police identified him from bus surveillance video, and he was arrested 4 days after the incident and charged with assault and racial harassment. Oh, shit. Good for you, police.
That is very surprising that someone black got done for racial harassment.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's almost done. Let me finish, and then you guys go wild on it. The attacker already had a long police record, including charges of race or religious harassment, robbery, and assault. A 70-year-old black man who... Wait a minute. The attacker earlier was called African American, and this 70-year-old man is called a black man. What's up with that? No, if they're gonna, judge every word, then I will too. That's interesting. Mainstream media, who grew up during the civil rights era, decried the incident. It speaks for the state of the times, Kenny said. People are desperate. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for guidance. But they're not getting it at home. They're not getting it from the government. It's a period of time I've never seen before. I would say you're half right. We don't need the guidance from the government. I believe, honestly, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but I believe, honestly, it's a problem in the black homes. They need a father figure. They need somebody to set them straight when they just want to beat up a fucking handicapped guy. Or they get a girl pregnant and they just run off and leave her there and then repeat the cycle repeatedly.
I would agree with you there, Maud.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound like Richard Spencer. I'm just pointing out statistics.
Sargon says that as well. That's not a far right viewpoint. That's a completely mainstream viewpoint that there needs to be fathers need to come back and raise their children in black neighborhoods.
Absolutely. And I was grabbing another beer, so that's why there's a little dead space. Well, what do you guys think? Like, first off, how do you like that the 70-year-old black man was called a black man, and the 27-year-old attacker who ran away and got away with it for 4 days at least, and then was caught, was an African American? Where's the distinction? Why write it that way? This is by one journalist. Why write it that way?
Well,
go
ahead, Max.
Go ahead. No. I was gonna say. I mean, I thought it was different journalists. I didn't know it was the same person. Fuck. I mean, if they're trying to push an agenda, like that'd be my guess. Because one, they could say, "Oh, he was just a young guy. He's just a kid, like those college kids." Or those college adults that they keep calling kids. And they say, oh, they don't know any better. And if they are kids, maybe we should treat them as kids and not blame them for the things that they do. But this is an old man, so They're like, oh, we can't say he's a kid because if you look at him, he's practically a freaking fossil.
Well, I would say
I don't
two
know.
things. The first thing, maybe he had to write a 900 word essay, but only had 899. Or the second reason could be because the older, and again, the Americans can say if I'm wrong or right about this, but African American seems to be a relatively new thing in college campuses. I mean, if you go back and listen to classic rap, it's not African American they're rapping about, it's black people. When you go to films, they don't say African American in the classic films, they say black. So maybe it's a generational thing that the people of the day are uh, wanting to give themselves an extra moniker in the, what do you call it, the victim class scale, by saying, oh, I'm African American rather than just black, you know? So.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I just like to say that you keep enabling the fucking control panel, so stop it, twat.
What?
Oh God, we're back to the control panel thing. All right. Moving on, Kevin.
Yeah, because he's got the fucker enabled, and you know what happens. You can bounce. I just keep on having to come back in again. It's just fucking tedious. I mean, it's fine if you want to exclude me. It's no problem. I just won't come back.
No, I don't want to exclude you. I never.
Then, you know, yeah, look, if people want to be cunt, I appreciate a good joke, but when it goes on too long, it's like, you know, you got to know when a joke's worn its fucking length. So give it up, MC. Turn the fucker off.
Oh, it's MC this.
What did I do?
Yeah.
But
turn the fucker, you dick.
What did I do?
Because on my phone, I can't do crap.
I'd like to know what I supposedly did. It would be helpful.
The gentleman who, well, not gentleman, the fucking douchebag that attacked the disabled guy will be represented by a public defender and appears in court next on the 27th. So I hope he gets what he's got coming to him.
Well,
I really do.
He needs to, it sounds like he's got a psychological problem that he needs to have. They need to put him in a criminal insane ward.
You know what I think? I'll tell you straight up what I think. I think he's been watching that Gaza fucking guy, that Black Hitler guy. I'm telling you. I think he's been watching that shit too much. Or Tyreek. Fucking shut up, Tyreek. I know that's not anymore, but I'm bringing it back. Damn it. These fucking guys.
Who left?
Oh, Cabbage did because he pissed him off, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think it's a control board because MC can't do nothing. I think
if I was going to do something, I would do it. I have no idea how I could do anything.
it must be your old computer, Cabbage, because no one else is being affected by whatever's happening.
Yeah, I'm on mobile even.
But
is it cloudy?
MC, you looked up some stories, and yeah or no? Should I just go back to Breitbart and find something else? That was a good fucking article.
One of the stories that I looked that I had was on the Brazilian Parliamentary Commission rejects charges against Temer, who's one of their deputies, or the president right now. Michael Temer for obstruction of Chamber of Deputies approved Wednesday by a vote of 39 to 26 a report that recommends the chamber reject new charges against President Michael or Michelle Temer for obstruction of justice and criminal association. All right, so basically what you're seeing is a in Brazil that there's a lot of corruption going on and accusations back and forth. All right. There are a number of different things that have happened. The recommendation also stated the charges of criminal association against the government's chief of staff, Elício Padilha, and the Secretary General of the Presidency, Marina Franco, be rejected. All right, the report favorable to Temer and his ministers was also written by Deputy Bonifacio de Andara, who stated that there was no sufficient evidence to continue the processes. All right. So basically, back and forth from Brazil. All right. Ever since obviously the Olympics, their government has been in turmoil. All right. For bribery scandals and so forth. The opposition, whoever's in the opposition, accuses whoever's recently in power that they're, corrupt. And this latest one that they're talking about came from, quote unquote, confessions by executives of a meatpacking giant, JBS, and a financial operator close to the ruling party. They stated that the JBS executives paid bribes to buy Ferrano's silence concerning the corruption within the government, with Temer's approval. So, I mean, it's something to be aware of. I mean, Brazil is, they've been this way for a while, and I feel bad for them because they've been a country that's been on the cusp of joining the world as far as a major player within the economies. They just can't seem to get out of their ways with corruption. So I was wondering what everyone was thinking about that from their standpoint.
Yeah, I don't really know much about that, but it does seem they're on the cusp of becoming a first world country, right?
Well, and that's what it's been. They've been. What was that?
Still gonna enable you, prick.
I've got what enabled? I don't know what I've got. What do I have to change, Cabbage?
I don't know.
Yeah, I really do think it's Google Hangouts because this happens with a different person each time. I think it's Hangouts. I don't know, but I do have.
No, it's the API. It's the Google API. It just freaks out. If the control panel's enabled, it just fucking the CPU just goes fucking nuts. It's like 98% of your CPU. You just got to shut down everything and then you start it up again. It's a real pain in the ass. Stop it.
Now that we can hear you again really clearly, what do you think about the Brazilian government and what's going on?
Brazilian government? I don't really know what's going on in Brazil. I haven't heard anything about it particularly.
Oh.
No, seriously, I'm not. No, I mean that's interesting that it's not really come to light.
Well, what's your general
keep my ear to the ground,
What's your general impressions of Brazil? Do you think of it as a country that's just on the cusp of becoming first world, or is it just always going to be mired in a third world type of status, in your opinion?
I know Brazil is an oligarchy. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's you have actually it's a perfect example of feudalism, really. If you want to look at 15th century feudalism, you wouldn't go far wrong. Modern day version was Brazil. It's the way it is. Same thing with, then again.
Well, do you think that they'll eventually get better like India? I mean, India's been improving slowly, but they've been improving, right? Do you see that happening with Brazil?
Everything's going feudal. Doesn't work out. It might work. Well, it does for the short term, but not in the long term.
So you don't think there's any hope for Brazil?
Well, it depends what actions they take. I mean, if they actually want to start, turfing out their oligarchs, if they want to do an equivalent of the toll puddle martyrs or something, then yeah, behead a king. These are the sort of things you've got to do if you want to really radically change things. Unfortunately, it doesn't usually work out too well for the people because they end up having to, destroy their own shit. I'll say, I don't know. I mean, Brazil's an odd one because it is, it is a creation of the IMF and the World Bank.
That's a good topic. So when's the next Bilderberg group meetup? When do you think they're gonna shake up the world economy again?
Oh, they meet every 2 years, don't they? So they met last year, so it'll be next year.
Oh, just in time for World War III? That should be pleasant.
Yeah.
Well, another story that I had, I'm going to change subject a little bit, is this story from China's news. All right, UN Security Council concerned over reports of violence in Kirkuk after Iraqi takeover. Now, nothing against anybody, but if you're on the Security Council and you're worried about violence in Kirkuk and anywhere in Iraq, I think that you're a little late to the party. You know, maybe I'm misunderstanding something here. All right, but when ISIS was in charge of all these forces, I mean, they didn't seem to be too concerned about it then. They're just busy sitting back and watching it. But now you're going to worry about violence in Kirkuk?
Yeah, that's interesting. But
now they're worried about the kids as well.
Before you continue on that, I just want to throw out there, I saw an interesting story about Africa and how China is going in there filling the void after colonialism. And instead of helping out the local areas, kind of like, you know, when you're trying to colonize, you try and build up infrastructure and stuff, right? When you just move in and try and buy up properties, you're just trying to make money. So they're not trying to help the local economy in these African countries that they're buying stuff up in. They're just trying to make money. Oh, go ahead. That was the end of my sentence. Oh, MC, did you boot him again? No.
It is. No, it is. It's him. It is. It's his fucking, because he hasn't turned off his fucking control panel.
Oh, you're back. If you have anything to say to what I said or MC, then go ahead.
If he wants to be a cunt, he can be a cunt. It's fine.
I don't think he's doing anything on purpose.
If I knew how to do that, I would ban you permanently at times, Cabbage. You know that.
I'm sure you would. You see. Yeah. Now we got the cuss.
What?
Well, what he was trying to say was the Cabbage MC fight everybody looks forward to on every RedEye. That's what he was trying to get at.
Well, back to your story. I mean, let's be honest. China is doing with money what it took the rest of the world to do with armies to build up their empires. China is just buying everything. I mean, that's how they're going to take over the world.
Yeah, they may try that, but there's a major flaw with doing it that way. And that is how often these corrupt regimes turn around and go, you know what, we're just going to nationalize whatever this is and take it.
Yeah, no, and when you're talking about these African countries, you're taking a big risk. I don't care if I was Warren Buffett. I don't know if I'm going to buy up a bunch of property in South Africa right now, okay? Not a good time. Yeah, that's all I had on that one, MC, if you want to go back to it.
No, that was it. I just was curious to hear what people's opinions were.
But no, China. Well, actually, no. Didn't you mention Iraq? I would like to talk about the Kurds. The United States said that if they keep attacking the Kurdish strongholds, we're going to pull out support for the Iraqi military. Is that a good plan?
Well,
it depends.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the Iraqi military is which are you dealing with the forces that are going to stand or not? I mean, it really that's what it comes down to. Are you dealing with professionals, or are you dealing with just people that are there just to get a paycheck and run away, when it's convenient for them?
Well, hasn't that been the problem with most Arab militaries in the modern world, then, in the modern age, anyway?
Well, to an extent. I mean, one of the differences is with the United States military is the fact that they know that if they run, they won't get shot.
The fucker off.
Turn off what? If you can tell me how to turn something off, I'll turn it off.
Control room.
Welcome back, Cabbage.
Thank you. Fucking annoying. It's a control room that does it every fucking time.
It's a wee thing. I think it's the third one down on the side of your screen. But
Yeah,
sure, that doesn't.
Why would you even enable it in the first fucking place? Cunt.
Okay, I don't see that icon anymore. So if you get booted this time, it isn't me.
Okay, someone has to talk. This is a live stream.
Okay, back to the thing. So yeah, I mean, one of the things is the militaries for Iran and Iraq. All right, I mean, pretty much most of the Arab militaries, they use the threat of force when they conscript people. They say, if you run, we'll hunt you down, or we'll hunt you and your family down, and we'll execute them. Now, with the United States, in those areas, or any of the Western allies in those areas, they know that the United States military or the Western militaries are not going to hunt their families down, or even hunt them down and then publicly execute them. I mean, we don't do that anymore, right? We haven't done that since World War II. Okay,
some questionable experiences in Fallujah.
Well, no, but what I'm talking about is the Arabs. Okay, so the Arab militaries have had a hard time actually being cohesive in the modern age. If you look at the 6-Day War with Israel, they came in there and just took over, and they were being assaulted by a superior force, correct, MC?
Well, the Arabs, you can't look at the Arab nations as a single collective, and that's one of the things that people are making a mistake with. Yes, during the the 6 Days War.
Holy shit! You got the Sunnis and the Shias. They don't fucking like each other.
What?
They're not good. They're not friends.
Right. The
Shias and the Shias and the Sunnis. They're not friends, are they? You know what I mean?
It's not just the Shias and the Sunnis. None of the nations are really that enamored with one another, right?
They don't play well together.
Right. Well, when Israel expanded during the 7 Days War, right, their main impetus was that they used as an excuse was the UN pulled out of the border areas, right, and they pulled that the UN pulled out, and their reasoning for pulling out was that Nasser was basically threatening to roll over, bring the massive Egyptian forces over, and roll over the UN forces that were protecting the Israelis from the Arab might. Now, excuse me, Nasser was basically doing that because he believed in pan-Arabism, but just like a lot of Arabs will talk about pan-Arabism, however, it's always pan-Arabism under me. It's not pan-Arabism for the sake of the Arabs. It's pan-Arabism of
exactly. It's under a particular doctrine. It's under either Shia or Sunni, or
it's even when they're all basically Sunni or all basically Shia, it still comes down to I'm the one in charge or else.
Yeah, exactly. It's tribal, but they've always been tribal. These are tribal people.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Is they break down to even platoons, where there's certain platoons that won't follow a certain general, and they just run away or not move when they're ordered. It's the total breakdown.
Yeah, which is why they're trying to outbreed us. They don't need to beat us. in the war. They can just outbreed us.
And like MC, you talk about the
That's what's happening.
Civil War. You'll talk about how the South, they had a great disadvantage because of the whole states' rights issue and how they couldn't supply their own troops and they couldn't have a cohesive.
Look, Mad Dodge, look, you just glossed over that, right? It's the whole point. This is exactly the strategy that's been laid out. They can't win wars, right? They know they can't. They're not, but they have a sort of shared ideology. And so they're willing to basically just sort of go along with the idea that they can outbreed us. They don't have to blow us up. All they have to do is undermine our economies, our societies, by immigration and things like that. So this is how they're doing it. This is not, I mean, it's weirder than guerrilla warfare. You know, at least guerrilla warfare, there was some kind of, you know, you could shoot the fucker. I mean, you can't do it now, right? In fact, not only that, you have to give them special treatment and social security. That's how they're going to do it. It's got nothing to do. They don't need the wars now. I mean, the wars that they're fighting are going to be amongst themselves. But in terms of the war that's really occurring for the West to be concerned about is the war of numbers. And who's the guy? The Prime Minister of was it Egypt? No, Turkey. Erdogan.
Oh, yeah.
He said, you know, we want to, you know, for every, if they have 2 children, you have 5. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, you know, he just gave numbers. But I mean, that's the whole point, right? Breed the people out. That's the technique now. It's got nothing to do with weapons. Weapons mean nothing.
Okay, so Turkey is in NATO. We have military bases in Turkey, right?
No, well, yeah, it is in NATO technically, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
there are missile. You have anti-ballistic. Yeah, but that's only to protect Israel.
Well, no. See, my idea.
Fuck all to do with protecting the civilized societies.
Well, listen. My idea is, since he keeps oppressing the people and he's pissing off people within the military and his own government because he's trying to overstretch and make it not secular anymore, we just take him out and we make Istanbul back.
But you did that with the Shah of Iran, and look how that turned out. You ended up with a fucking Ayatollah Khomeini.
Hear me out. Istanbul goes back to Constantinople, and then we create a Crusader army, and we just take over. What do you think?
Nah, nonsense.
We technically already have the Holy Land already, right? So, I mean...
Actually, I think someone needs to go over. We need to send a few SJWs over there to start Arab Lives Matter, and then just watch the country disintegrate.
Yeah, I don't think starting the next crusade is really a good idea.
Oh my! You're gonna need to start Sarkeesian and fucking Lacey Green and all the other ones.
This way,
you know, that experiences.
MC, would you rather?
Of course, no. I would demand that they had to have genital mutilation before they were permitted through passport.
Cabbage, MC, dude, you either do it now or you wait for another Salah ad-Din, and then you don't have a chance to do it. Because we just talked about, they're all broken up. They'll run at the first sign of trouble.
No admission with a clit.
I mean, like, seriously, they break down the cohesion in the military unit. They flee. Why not? You know.
Let's assume that the United States says, you know what, we are no longer the United States, the Republic of the United States of America. We are now the Empire. Okay.
Wait.
And let's say.
Wait a minute, no. You can.
Nobody would take it seriously.
It's just a hypothetical.
No, you guys went. MC, you can continue, but I would argue, serious.
Good. We made for a good meeting.
That the United States is already an empire and has been one since 1865. Now go ahead.
It has, yeah, because you got your territories. You do have your extra land masses that are not actually connected. So you are technically an empire. It's true.
Not really.
Yeah, you
All right,
are.
but let's assume we go
Panama
full.
and you know.
Let's go
You're
full
not,
empire mode.
all of your territories are not actually attached to you. That makes you an empire. I'm
Not all of
sorry,
us
that's the
actually attached to it.
Yeah, you got plenty of little territories, you know.
No,
that
but
you-
Cabbage,
Or well, I suppose protectorates, whatever you want to call them, but that does make you an empire. Sorry, man.
no, but
that's
I'm
how it works.
interested in this thought experiment. We go full fucking, you know, Revenge of the Sith or whatever. We go full empire. Donald Trump is Caesar Trump. All right, well, I'm with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we use the military forces. We stomp on Egypt. We stomp on the Sudan. We stomp on Syria. We stomp on Iraq. We stomp on Iran. Okay, let's just use
But
those.
the idea is that
We'll stop there. We'll just use those as an
stupid
example.
because yeah, but you're
Right.
thinking that those people, you know, like nobody else is going to come in, you know, to protect those people.
Well, and that's
say, hang on, stop doing this, right?
That's the thing. Is anyone going to stop us? Would anybody stop us from doing that? Now we know the Europeans won't.
But the idea that you just do it is fucking arrogant.
Well, right, but that's my point. The idea that the Europeans will do anything, no, the Europeans won't, especially the Western Europeans. They'll just sit back in the sidelines and go poo-poo America. Hey, you guys shouldn't do that. Bye-bye. You know, we'll wave your fingers
Britain
at us.
won't. We're fucking sick and tired of all this shit.
Hey, you know what? No, you British bastards would be invading with us. You know you want your peace.
Fuck off. Oh, it's all point. We're tired of this shit. We just, you know, we'll take
You would go back to Fortress Britain and curl on up and say, look, you guys handle the empire for now. All right. But to think that Russia will sit back to that degree and let that happen, not going to happen. And China's flexing its muscles. They're going to look at that and go, well, if you're going to do that, well, then it's time for us to flex our muscles. Now, where can China flex its muscles at? It can go south and it runs into Vietnam. All right. Would we care about Vietnam being invaded by China? No, not really. Would we care about Taiwan being invaded by China, however?
Yeah.
Yeah, what would be the UN obligations, though? Yeah, but what are the UN obligations?
Well, at that point,
would you care for it?
If we went into the idea that we're going to go to an empire, that the United States is truly an empire, do you really think the UN even exists anymore? Because basically the United States...
the UN basically serves the US anyway. It's crazy.
No, it doesn't. And that's why the United States is... If the United States pulled out of the UN would collapse. It doesn't serve
Where is the fucking UN? Where's the UN housed? Who funded it? Who paid for the fucking...
That's right. All we have to do is stop paying for it. Just like we stopped paying for UNESCO. Watch UNESCO go right...
What do you mean? No, you don't have to stop paying for it. Just get Rockefeller to stop fucking paying for it. He's the one who paid for the freaking bill.
No, but wait a minute. No, the idea that NATO wouldn't come in if we were going all super fucking Caesar, the NATO would be with us. So either you're with us or you're against us. We run NATO. What are we going to do? Pull out of NATO?
NATO is...
And
remember, NATO, look at NATO. NATO is a defensive alliance. It's not a offensive alliance. It's a defense alliance.
Yeah. Belgium and Netherlands troops go home at weekends. They are not troops. They're really not. They're not a professional force.
All you have to do is start gearing up at the borders and ask for the assault. Now, Turkey is a NATO country, so once we sack on Constantinople, that's right.
Come on, Germany managed to achieve the same thing twice and learn from the first time.
I will call it Constantinople. That's it. It's not Istanbul anymore. It's Constantinople. Once we sack that,
are you ready for the United States to go in with a bloody type of environment where we just slaughter people in droves to make sure that the cities are pacified?
No, part of the military would join us. They have a history of overthrowing a government that tries to go away from being secular ever since they made the switch. So we would just back the government officials that want to overthrow it. And then we just go, hey, how about you rename it?
Yeah, but you've done that. Yeah, but you've done that so many times. I mean, look how that's worked out. Pinochet wasn't exactly a massive success, was it? Arrested in London. You know,
guys,
look at the Shah of Iran. Look what happened to him, right? Great idea. Go put him in, and then you can't do that.
That area was stabilized for over 3 decades during the Shah of Iran.
Well,
you can say all that about the Shah of Iran all you want. All right, but the fact is that we had a leftist president who came in there and let him die with the encouragement, I might add, by the frickin' British.
You ended up who'd you end up with?
Well, because we sit there and we're listening to our wonderful British and French allies that said, "Go ahead and let him fall."
No, it was. Don't fucking blame us for that one.
I mean, don't blame you. Tell me, where was the Ayatollah Khomeini roaming around? Oh, that's right. He was shuttling between London and Paris constantly.
Yeah, well, I mean, he popped over here, but that doesn't mean.
But he popped over.
Well, yeah, but he also went to Spain and he went to Greece too. So
does that make it okay if Hitler popped up in London for a fucking holiday? Like. Come on.
That's right, yeah, it's the weekend. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like the same horseshit, right? I mean, you're just creating another problem. This idea that you can manipulate political systems doesn't work. It's been proven not to work in so many fucking occasions.
Okay,
when you look at how subversion is meant to achieve something, it hasn't worked. It's worked in the short term. It's a very short-term solution. It can work in that scenario. And usually that's for corporate gain. It's got nothing to do with the benefit of the people.
No, but
the people, and the thing is though, but if you don't get the support of the people, then it's futile.
No.
Right? Because if you want to create something stable and something which is viable, then it has to be actually to benefit the populace. But these subversions are not designed to do that. They're political. They are purely to gain access to resources or whatever political geopolitical political points that you want to score, and that's why they fail.
Well, yeah,
because they don't have the benefit of the people and the
reason
the interest
they
of the people at heart. That's the reason they fail.
But you can say that all you want. That's nonsense.
Well, you show me one that's worked. Show me one that's fucking worked then, all right?
Germany.
Germany, yeah. How did
Japan.
that work? What, you put Hitler in, did you? Yeah,
no, we didn't put Hitler in. But Germany has been stable now for how many years now? Close to 100 years?
How the fuck has that got to do with...
Because it shows you the difference between if you're going to go into an area...
What do you mean? Germany now is a complete fucking fruitcake.
Are you ready to listen, or are you going to keep talking over me? Because you asked a question.
I'm just saying that Germany is a fucking fruitcake because now
it might be a fruitcake, but it
massive immigration.
It was
exactly. So it isn't actually functional, is it? No, because it's got all this mass immigration.
Whether you like it or not about how they do their policies, they're no longer a threat. Germany at this point is not a threat to the Western world. Not a military threat. Okay, so if you're going to take a look at
not because you, but
not because we killed somebody. It's because we occupied the area and we pacified the region.
Yeah, but not because you instituted a leader.
Just like we did in Japan.
You didn't institute the leader.
Yes, we did. For the longest time, we were the leadership. We sit up there and dictated what the structure of their government was.
Not the country. Leader. No, exactly, which is why they, no, having said that, remember, America back in the 1970s was freaking out because the Japanese were taking over their industry.
Well,
but once again, that was not a military threat. They were no longer a military threat. So if you're going to go to an area, you got to sit up there and occupy that area.
Exactly.
That's the
military.
difference.
Right. And now it's about military. You see.
Okay, well, I would like to
move in the goalpost.
Wait a minute, though. I would like to make one point. First off, I am a libertarian, guys. I am. I'm
I
bringing
moved no
this up
goalpost.
as a thought experiment. But I am saying, okay, Turkey has overthrown their own government whenever it tried to go back to Sharia law and to a more religious doctrine in government. They have stayed secular for going on, am I right, MC, 50 years, 40 years? Maybe longer?
Well, yeah, but Turkey is, secular. No, it's always been secular.
Well,
Turkey's
Turkey
always been
was
that way.
secular.
I mean,
It's not
that's a
secular anymore.
balance.
And I
It
don't
used to
see the
be.
military
No, it used
revolting
to be.
against it right now.
Well,
It used to be a lovely place to go to, you know. It was a fantastic place to go on holiday. It
maybe
really
they
was.
would if we flexed our muscle and gave them help to actually do it, because that purge, I'm sure, left a lot of people in the military in the middle.
We got to
Very
purge.
nervous.
We got to go purge.
They did. They purged the military of a lot of high ups in the so-called coup, which I don't buy for a second. Do you?
No, I was thinking about the Z Nation with, you know, the US going in to help. You know?
Since the U.S. can't help anybody, let's pull out and pull all the U.S. forces back to Fortress America. Enjoy your European world.
Hey.
No.
Wait a minute. I
no. I agree with that idea. I think.
Well, see,
I know this is the whole point, because then all you're doing is allowed to kind of know it, like cancer.
Enjoy it. You want the cancer. If all we're going to get from you guys is bitching about whenever the U.S. does something, about how we always do it wrong no matter what we do, what do you think the results are going to end up being sooner or later? America's just going to say, fine, we'll pick up our ball and go home. You guys handle it. Expect it. It's coming.
Okay, so Geek Zulu in the chat wants me to address some of his comments. I will right now. All right. So, Germany was actually stabilized by the U.S. after World War II. We invested actual time to rebuild the country. We haven't done that in the Middle East. First off, Geek, yeah, we fucking have. Have you heard of Iraq, Afghanistan? Yeah, we spent a shitload of money to rebuild the shit we blew up.
No, we didn't. We did not sit up there and take over those areas and pacify it with U.S. forces. Geek is correct.
Not like we should.
And we fuck it up.
I'm concerned. Just contain the region.
Fuck it up and leave, which is why, to be honest, I was fucking around about the, taking over everything. All right, I was letting my inner freaking Fuhrer out because of the goddamn Cubs have me pissed off tonight. But you're right. We do fuck it up and leave. Now, I said Fuhrer live on air.
Yes, which is why, all of these subversions and things, these things they think are being clever, and you undermine something, and then you end up with something worse than you intended in the first place.
Oh, no,
or maybe it was planned. You never know. I mean, maybe it's like, if we put this shit in, we'll end up with that, and that's good for us. I mean, who knows what these, what timescales these fuckers are working on.
Well,
but at the end of the day,
I would like to make a point here. I think we should actually give MC's plans a go. I think if America did pull out of all the shit around the world, it would make the UK and other European countries stand up for ourselves again. It would help us become more nationalist. I think America pulling out might actually be a good thing.
All right. Yeah. No. And that's why I second
it. The thing is, the Europeans won't even pay their NATO bills. Country in NATO does pay bills.
I want to continue real quick and get through what Geek was saying. I like to address the chat because they're here watching and writing shit. So expect Western ideals to actually make it there. Saudi Arabia just legalized women to drive. I mean, I know that's not the best, example, but it is progress. Germany is a different beast. Yes and no. Germany, there had to be a large part of Germany that didn't want to give up the war, even when their cities were burning down. Just like in the South, there was a large part that didn't want to give up the war for secession. people that were open to Western democracy and already had it and have already installed Western ideals. That's true. I can't argue with that. Yeah, I think that's about it there, Geek. I pretty much addressed all your issues there. You guys can go ahead.
No, I mean, you can talk about Western ideals all you want. Japan didn't have Western ideals prior to World War II. All right. Germany did not have, regardless of what people were thinking, all right, Germany did not have Western ideals prior to World War II. They were still a very feudalistic type of a culture. All right. You take a look at where we've been on the ground as the major emphasis on the ground, all right, and where we dictated the structure of the government like we did in Korea, okay? Yes, there are struggles, but eventually they turn into a Western country. You can't say that South Korea is not, you know, a Western type style nation now. All right, it's still got a long ways to go. It's still got its own identity. You know, Koreans are not Japanese. Japanese are not Koreans. Neither one of them are the United States, and none of them are Europe. None of us are Europe or any country in Europe. So if you're really serious about stabilizing these areas, you've got to go in there and basically occupy it. To say that we were using occupation-style forces in Iraq is just silly. If you compare what we did after World War II, all right, in Germany or Japan or even Korea, to what we did in Iraq, it's just absolute silliness. After World War II in Japan and after World War II in Germany, we dictated, this is what you will do. This will be the structure of the government. We will approve your government until you guys get used to doing it our way. And that's exactly what we did. During right after World War II, one of the things that happened in Japan, right, was they had a unionization of their railway workers. Okay, and of course, like all unions do, the first thing they tried to do was go on strike. The United States government said, you will not strike, period. In other words, we were dictating, we were occupying that country and telling the populace how they will do things. You don't see anything like that in Iraq. Come on. To say we have forces in the area, okay, but if the forces aren't doing anything, if the forces are just coalesced and not actually dictating, this is how you will live, this is how you will do things, this is going to be the result. Everybody wants to go into Iraq and have it all happen as, oh, it was going to be a nice little thing, we'll just let the people, you know, handle their own business, okay, which, okay, that's fine. Then you should have pulled our forces out of there, though. All right. You can't go in with a tepid attitude. If you're going to go into an area and you want to pacify it and you want to turn it so that its culture changes, cultures change either slowly or quickly depending upon the amount of pressure that's applied. If we really were intended to change the culture in Iraq, we needed to supply a massive amount of force rapidly and keep it there consistently, and we didn't do that. So I'm not advocating for this. Do not misunderstand me. I'm just taking this idea of a fortress, you know, how you're going to do things. Because the United States at this point in time, if you want the United States to keep funding the bills, we now are in a situation where we're $20 trillion in debt. We're going to have to start making cutbacks. And guess what? One of the big areas we're going to start making cutbacks in is foreign relations. Specifically, we fund most are the ones funding the bills of the IMF. We are the International Monetary Fund. Okay, you will see us start to withdraw that. You will also see the United States start to withdraw from the UN, just like we did UNESCO. All these other UN corporate things that were just UN only. All right, and to think that the United States, that the UN served the purposes of the United States when they constantly attacked Israel, when they constantly send their little quote unquote advisors to the United States to say, well, we've got Amnesty International says that you guys aren't running your elections right, so we're going to observe your elections. Oh, we're going to sit up there and put a law in place that says that you got too many guns in America. If you think that this is serving the purposes of the United States, you're sadly mistaken. And the UN now has gotten itself in a position where the United States is getting sick and tired of it just sitting there going, okay, well, we're just going to bash the US. Because the US has in the past and will again pick up its ball and go home in the foreign policy arena. We don't need the world. Now, this I think is a short-sighted viewpoint. I'm not advocating this. But if that's what the rest of the world keeps clamoring for, you're going to see it. And it's going to come sooner rather than later, because we can't keep affording being the welfare spigot, right, for the rest of the friggin' world.
Well, I would like to point out that's why I would end all federal aid to our foreign aid, and I would also end subsidies here at home. But just throwing that out there. Real policy that I would actually be for. And when I say all foreign aid, I mean Israel, I mean all of it. Iraq, Afghanistan, all of it. No more money for nothing. And we're in debt. We can't give money out until we're solvent again. Oh, go ahead, MC. I know you disagree with that. Go for it.
Well, only to a slight extent. All right, if you're going to sit there and see that, I think we do need to withdraw and realign our monetary funding. All right, Israel is at least an ally that votes with us in the UN, unlike, I don't know, 40 billion a year to Mexico. All right, and all the other Latin American countries. All right, we can reduce a lot of that funding very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, if we want Mexico to pay for the wall, cut the funding in half. Then they paid for it. I mean, I know. We still paid for it. But you know what I mean? It would offset.
Well, technically, yeah. If you say, okay, we were going to give you this much in aid, and now we're withdrawing this money for aid, yeah. I mean, technically, you can say, well, you know, that we still paid for it because you didn't put it there. That's true. But at the same time, it's money that would have gone to Mexico that you're not giving to Mexico anymore. Now, what would Mexico do? Who knows?
What are they gonna do? I mean, seriously, of all the countries in the world to be scared of, is Mexico even in the top 25?
Well, no, they're not, but that's not the point. I mean, you got to remember, some of these countries, many of these countries, have been living off the largesse of the United States, all right, to a large extent, and they would have to realign their internal structures then to deal with their own populaces. In Mexico, if we pulled the carpet out from under them, all right, how do you think the populace would react? I honestly don't know, and I honestly don't know how the government would react, because they sure as heck right now aren't interested in taking care of their own people. And these same oligarchs that are living high in the hog of the U.S. funding down there, right, because of their own corruption, they just packing it. All of a sudden, they're not going to have that money. I guarantee you, they're not going to sit up there and go, well, I'll just start cutting back. They're going to start trying to take the money from their populace. I think you would end up with a serious revolutionary type of mindset going on in Mexico. I really do. Now, it might not happen. Maybe they'll get their crap together. Who knows? But at this point in time, the United States is going to start withdrawing. It has to. It doesn't have a choice. We can't continue in debt like this. And then when people start complaining about it, one of the first things people are going to do is, in the United States, they're going to look at areas that groups that constantly complain about how the U.S. was interfering and had their tentacles all around the world, and they're going to say, you do it.
Yeah. No, and I would like to throw out there, trolls will be booted, but I think what I'm going to start doing is after the first hour and a half or so, the RedEye, I'll throw the link out in the chat, and you guys can jump in and throw in your 2 cents. But if you're here to be a troll, you're here to mute somebody, be a fucking cunt, then I'm just going to boot you, which I have never done to anybody yet. So, you could be the first. Anyway, I really don't see a threat from Mexico other than the drug cartels. And a good way to end that would to be end the drug war. Prohibition doesn't work. We proved that before. Well, you're lucky you don't have a freaking, instead of crack houses, you're lucky you don't have speakeasies where they go in there and do dope. I mean, seriously, MC. I mean, you're lucky it's not that bad yet. When it comes to drug war. Well, no, there was a speakeasy in every small town. There's not a crack house in every town. I mean, there might be a few in one town and then none in another. So it evens out. But you don't have a town where there's like in a small town, you might find 4 or 5 bars. You don't have 4 or 5 crack houses where you can just say a secret word and go smoke crack. All right.
Okay. So what's your point about that?
Well, my point is, you're lucky it's not that bad with prohibition, because the last prohibition, it was that bad. There was no way there was.
The last prohibition, if you take a look at it, drinking within the United States was drastically reduced. To say that it didn't have an effect is nonsense. Now, once again, I'm not pro prohibition necessarily, okay, or anti-prohibition. Right? I'm not saying that we should have banned alcohol in the United States. That's not what I'm trying to say. All right. The thing is that the media especially overplayed just how bad it had gotten, and it did create a level of corruption within the government. All right, especially when it came to the judicial system. All right, that people didn't expect because of the amount of money that was being utilized, and especially in the larger cities. But in the rural areas of America, which most of America was still rural at that point, right? Although people were starting to move to the cities, right? There wasn't the huge upcry and so forth that you think there was. Now, what did it create? Of course, it created not speakeasy so much, but it created everyone was building their own stills in the rural areas because they were just ignoring the government. But that's the difference. Not everyone can make crack, right? Everyone can build a still.
Yeah.
Okay? This changes the dynamic on whether or not you can actually create an area of prohibition or not for a specific substance. Now, for marijuana, let's be honest, everyone could grow marijuana in their house. All right. So the idea that somehow you're going to be able to limit marijuana, in my opinion, is quite foolish. The same can't be said though for heroin.
Well, yeah, but anybody can grow the poppy that it takes to create said
Not
heroin.
really. The poppy is it's like tobacco in that it's sensitive to certain areas. And even then, opium, which is the product, yes, you can sit up there and cultivate opium if you wanted, but it is a single plant doesn't give you a whole bunch of opium, right? You need whole fields of it to collect it. All right. So it's not like marijuana where a single marijuana plant will provide you several ounces of marijuana. Right. I mean, it's not the same. All right. It's just not the same thing. And then turning opium into heroin is a chemical process that requires quite a bit of knowledge and also a little bit, quite a bit of skill. It isn't something you're going to be able to do in your own home necessarily.
Absolutely, just like morphine, which is another derivative. That
morphine is another one. Methadone is something that's a little bit different, but yeah.
So, MC, what you're telling me is that Breaking Bad wasn't real?
No. Yes, I am saying that Breaking Bad is not real. All right. Can you do certain things? Can you create meth lab? Can you build your own meth lab? If you have the knowledge and the skill, yes, you can build your own meth lab. Obviously, there are meth labs in the United States. Not everyone's going to build a meth lab. And if people tried to build a meth lab in their houses, you would know who they were because half of them would be dead because of the fumes. Okay, so it's not the same. It's just not the same kind of thing. It's not like I said, with marijuana. Marijuana grows freaking wild, for crying out loud, in 90% of the United States. You can find it in the ditches and almost all the freeways and all the highways of the country.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I have thrown out the link in Twitter a few times, and that's why I always give the troll disclaimer. Just so people know they come in here and try and be rude or jackasses. We are going to get you out of here.
Well,
That's
more rude than we normally are. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, which would be pretty hard. So you'd be trolling pretty hard. You got to outdo Cabbage and MC on that one. I mean, good luck.
It's a pretty loose standard, in other words.
So, is any of the trolls going to come on there?
I think Geek Thulu is jumping on. That's why I threw the link out there, as he asked. I could also go to Discord and throw it out at him. But Voice, you guys have prohibition over there. Is drugs a big issue in Ireland?
In the cities, yeah. Oh, there's a real problem with them.
Like,
it's mostly recreational, like ETOBs and, I know in the bad parts of the inner cities it is, what's the one you inject?
Well, there's a few. There,
Heroin's the big one.
Heroin,
well, that's getting bad over here. But again, it is sort of just in the cities. The only really stuff you see out in the country would be weed, and even that's a rarity, at least where I live.
Well, the climate there isn't necessarily good for growing marijuana. You'll get a lot of mold. Kind of like here in Oregon, we do a lot of indoor mainly. During the summer, we do outdoor, and that's right. It's legal here. I don't care how much you say it's
not. I don't know about that law because, a few miles away, there was a farm a few years ago. Was done and they were growing weed. So apparently someone can grow it here.
Well, yeah, but your growing season is not that long, right?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know how to grow weed, so.
Well, the marijuana growing is the same as your crops, pretty much. So when it comes to outdoor, if not a little bit shorter. So.
Well, if you need any sort of good weather, that leaves at about 2 weeks in July, and then that'll be the only time you can grow.
Yeah, man, no wonder you guys can't even grow potatoes. Jesus Christ.
Well, it's a fucking joke. Why we really get sunshine?
MC, you are a twat.
Comes back and that's for this.
So, Max, do you have a channel or what there?
Yeah. It's just a random channel. I'm gonna call it my shitpost channel because I really have nothing on there.
No videos in or what there?
Well, I have videos on it, but they're not really consistent. Or
is it just Max Bar your channel? Is it
Max what?
Max Bar, is that your full channel name?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Max, I really wish you would have kept that one picture. I don't want to throw it out there live, but it had to do with a donkey and a certain.
Yeah, I sent that to Tigerson. I found it.
Oh God, no, not that one. Oh,
yeah.
That shit was great, dude.
Trauma Town. That was Trauma Town.
What's your
the sick man? You know that, Max.
What's your little Max Bar thing? Because there's quite a lot of people called Max Bar.
Mine has my face. But that should just be it. It's Max Burr.
Not Bar.
Burr. Yeah, with you.
Exbury, yeah.
Yeah, mine has my
well,
face
that'll be
and 90.
right. Sorry, fucked up. I wondered why the fuck there was. Oh, there we go. Oh, that was clever of me.
Yeah, there's a joke video about traps, but that's about it. I mean, other than that, I did some streams and I posted a drawing video, I think once. The old streams I used to do, I deleted them because I don't know, I was trying to go in a different direction, but it didn't really turn out, so I'm thinking of doing the streams again. But Mad Dog is doing his own streams, so I don't think I'll get good traction anymore.
Well, thanks, man. But no, I can't draw. So those drawing streams that you do is fucking awesome. And you should have left that one up. That was great. I know you might get a death threat or two, but take one for the team, man.
Oh yeah, I also drew a lot of dicks and naked people, so I had to take them down regardless of what anybody was saying on there.
No, and yeah, for the people watching, he's the one that did my avatar, and it's fucking badass in my opinion. So, thank you once again, Max.
Yeah, sure. And also,
Did you do that, did you?
What's up?
Did you do that, lad? Yeah, you did his avatar.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Oh, thanks.
In fact, it's better than your own.
I know. But mine's shitty on purpose.
Yeah. What did he give you for it?
I don't remember.
Probably not enough. Less than Cabbage paid for his, and mine. So.
Well, Cabbage insisted he pay that much. I told Cabbage to pay lower, but he wanted to pay more.
Yeah, I asked the price, and I definitely jumped on the price and paid, I think, the same day. So it was very fair. Oh, Cabbage. MC left for a little bit. That should mean you're good, right? Or does have the control panel on now? No.
So it was an MC. Your connection just shitty, Cabbage.
All right, let's see here. Any other news? Oh, wow. Okay, so there was a bombing at a Swedish police station, and it may be terrorist related. Anybody surprised?
Imagine my shock.
Yeah.
No. This is integration, apparently.
Let me guess, the perpetrator was quote unquote Asian.
Yeah, this is diversity, mate.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
the front of a police station in Helsingborg,
You can diversify your parts from themselves.
Sweden was demolished by explosives shortly after midnight Wednesday morning. An incident which has been called an attack on democracy by Swedish Prime Minister Stefan. Okay, so how do you pronounce the O with the two dots over it? I've never been good at that.
Yeah, I think it's just a double O, isn't it?
So it's like
it's an umlaut.
Ooh, so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't have any sympathy for them at all. They brought this on themselves.
Yeah, it's an ooh noise.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
no, but
it was about to happen.
Yeah,
I'm just
Germany.
I'm just surprised they're calling it an attack on democracy.
Well, they didn't bring it on themselves. The people didn't. The leaders.
Oh, come on. Look at the way the Sweden people are voting. Of course, they're as culpable as culpable as the politicians, because they're the ones who are also supporting it. Like,
yeah, who voted in the leaders?
Yeah, well, then again, you got Trump. So what does that tell you about you?
Oh yeah, James the Swamp.
No, you know what?
Swamp.
Not to switch off of Sweden, but that drain the swamp shit really made me mad because I thought Bannon for all his douchebaggery, which I think is a word, he was anti-establishment, which from a libertarian perspective, I can appreciate. And then he fired it within, like, what, 3.5 months or some shit?
Yeah.
Damn. I thought I had a little bit of hope, Trump. I didn't vote for you, but damn, I thought it was kind of okay. You know, make America great again. Drain the swamp. No, let's fire the anti-establishment guy.
The only way you could drain the swamp of Congress is to burn the fucker to the ground.
Oh yeah.
All the politicians in it.
You know, okay, so in this scenario, I would have voted for Trump. If Trump would have had Rand Paul as his vice president, then I would have gone for it. That would have got me on board. But instead, I voted for what is Aleppo Johnson. But in his defense, we wouldn't know what Aleppo was if we weren't bombing it. So,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that would have been my response at that moment, where they're like, "You don't know what Aleppo is?" I would be like, "You know, I shouldn't have to know what it is. Is it a city we're bombing?" And you know, something.
That's why I'm happy you already know where Ireland is.
I don't believe we've ever bombed Ireland. That would be the English, right? Cabbage.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get him to buy it. He must be drinking tea.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's really interesting. An attack on democracy. Well, democracy is 3 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. So I don't necessarily consider an attack on democracy a bad thing, because we're not a democracy. I'm so tired of that. If my kid comes home from middle school from U.S. history and he goes, "Dad, we're a democracy," I'm gonna slap the taste out of his mouth. Like, no, we're not.
Curry approach.
Damn it. This shit's irritating. We're a constitutional republic. That is what the United States is. Now, maybe Sweden is a democracy. And if they are, well, that's your fucking bad. Change your system. Go back to monarchy. That's better than democracy, in my opinion. As long as you have somebody.
Is it really? Then why did you fucking spend, what was it? Like 10 years kicking the British out if you wanted the monarchy?
No, but King George was a douchebag.
Oh, so you'd be quite happy for Queen Elizabeth to rule you?
So, at that time, would they? Yeah, maybe. I doubt she would have had taxation without representation. I'm sure she would have allowed Benjamin Franklin on Adams to sit in Parliament, maybe. You know. Well, that's all they were asking for, man. Was a couple people in there to be like, "Hey, remember the colonies?" And they're like, "Fuck you." No.
I'm sorry, you kicked us out. We're not coming back. You made your bed and you're going to have to sleep in it.
But you Irish kicked them out. What the fuck?
You keep forgetting where I'm at. I'm in Northern Ireland. Yeah, I'm both Irish and British. I can take both sides or claim to be none.
Well, isn't that an easy way out?
I can side with whoever's winning and be actually factual. So,
is that how the Scottish play it too? They have the same fucking mentality.
No, they're subservient to the crown. They have no choice. They're actually part of the mainland.
Oh, really? So how?
Well, yeah, you don't know where Scott attached. You know, I mean, I've not looked at the map recently.
We're just kind of floating around. We just wonder. Do you need a passport or a visa to go from Northern Ireland to Southern?
No,
Like, can you go?
Of course you don't.
You,
Foolish.
no, I
Okay.
even have, I
Well-
can, no, I've even both two passports, an Irish and a British.
well, no. See, that's my. Why is it foolish, Cabbage? Because they separated. Southern Ireland left for a reason. You would think that they would want, their own autonomy.
Well, actually, the Southern Ireland did have its own autonomy until it sold itself out to the EU. They had it for about, let me see, 60, no, 50, about 30 some years they had it, and then they said, oh, here you go, you can have it instead. So it made all the bloodshed, completely pointless.
Yeah, yeah, that was my first thought. What was the whole point of the fucking Irish Republican Army then?
Well, the
Nothing.
original Irish Republican Army back in the 1910s, that was needed because Ireland did want to become a sovereign nation, but the IRA and all of the UBF and all those people in the 70s and the 80s was just it was all for money, which of course you Americans gladly fucking give to.
Oh, that's fair. There's still biker gangs doing business with the so-called real IRA, right?
At the minute, no. Primarily, they're still trying to get a court case with Libya. I think they've moved on it now because they're suing Libya because the IRA got the guns from them.
Oh, yeah. See, I thought the Hells Angels had a presence there, as well as the Pagans, and there's another biker gang I can't think of, but I heard they had a presence in Ireland. Maybe I'm wrong.
A very small one.
What was that?
It would be a very small one because I remember when I was when I actually had my bike and was going out to ride outs and stuff, like you would very rarely ever see anybody that was part of a gang of any kind.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was watching. See, once again, History Channel's not a credible source, but I was watching Gang. No, but to be real, I was watching Gangland, and they were talking about the Hells Angels and their international chapters, and they
All
mentioned
the aliens.
Canada, they mentioned
Yeah.
Ireland.
Getting abducted by aliens.
Not on Gangland. That's a different show, man.
Fuck's sake. Yeah, lots of anal probing.
Lots of anal probing.
What is it, biker gang?
It's like this. You know what you're going to see in the History Channel next? The same thing as the new Call of Duty. All of a sudden, there's going to be evidence for black Nazis.
That's it. Yes, they will.
Well,
And they'll have live feed as it happens.
I
He was not these.
there's already
Watch
black.
the Holocaust in living color.
No, but there's a black Hitler, right? So there's already black.
Yeah.
Oh no, his cuck of a freaking boyfriend or whatever the fuck didn't win for governor or mayor or whatever, right?
Well, was that really a surprise, Matt?
No, but I was asking a question. I don't know. Like,
No,
Yeah, I
that-
wouldn't think so. Or else I would have heard about it.
Yeah, all right.
Like a proud day for black people, black or black gay, whatever the hell he is, trans or boyfriend went and ran for whatever the hell it is and won.
Someone tells me that, even though on video he's a cuck, someone tells me that when it comes to the bedroom, he's the butch,
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does Black Hitler look like a gay Chris Tucker?
No, yeah, everybody's
Early
saying
Chris
that.
Tucker,
He sounds like
early
him too.
Tucker
Yeah.
in his CB4 days. Do you remember that film?
Yeah.
That's going back a bit. I believe one of their greatest songs was "The Sweat from My Balls."
Oh well, that's a oldie but a goodie, right?
Yeah, they don't make films like they used to.
The
Oh, I know, right?
classics.
Oh yeah, it was a
Alright.
classic.
Well, we've gone about 2 hours. I know it's late for our European friends here.
Don't
Any
call me
last
that,
words?
you fucker. I don't have nothing to do with.
Oh, European?
European cunts.
Oh,
I'm not European.
Technically,
How
cabbage is
dare you? How very much dare you?
oh, I guess we were friends until I called you European.
Yeah, sorry, man. You lost all credibility now.
Oh,
Oh, so you won't be donating to my Patreon
No,
anytime soon.
I ain't gonna give you shit, mate.
Hey, fuck you.
I wouldn't give you the fucking steam off my piss.
God damn. Any last words, you fucking cunts? There, is that better?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
much better.
I think you're
Black
a
Lives
shite
Matter.
and nobody should patronize this person.
Black Lives Matter is the Black Ku Klux Klan. They're the clan with the tan.
Every parent watching this has to teach their children one thing: 14 words.
What, a
Yes.
day or just 14?
Oh my god! Does no one get the fucking reference?
No,
We
I
must
do. I
secure a
get it.
safe space for the future of our, or for our triggered and for the future of our children.
At least we've got one good Nazi on the stream.
Achtung,
Canadian
baby.
American.
You know, his avatar, is like, a slightly tanned, larger fellow, but I bet you in real life he's a fucking skinhead pale cunt,
I wish. That'd be awesome.
You wish. Hang on. What are we getting into here?
You get a 14 tattooed on the back of my head.
Fantasy shit.
I'll be trans white.
That's great. No.
I would not like to. I would not want to imagine one in a fucking onesie. That would be fucking scary.
No, not allowed to put on whiteface. That's cultural appropriation. Damn it.
Voice of one can stay definitely in trousers and shirt.
But the
Then-
college
What
is
are you
teaching
talking
me.
about, mate?
Don't
Speak
get
up.
weird.
Speak up. You keep sounding like you've been dick in your mouth,
Sorry. I was
My last
getting close to sneezing.
my last words are pretty simple.
Damn it.
So the Cubs can suck a dick. Enjoy your win tonight.
Oh, fuck you with your bloody tight trousered fucking sportsman, you faggot.
No, shut up, Travis. I gotta get this off my chest, man. All right. Fuck you, Cubs. Go fucking die. Tomorrow we'll win. Go Dodgers. Good night. Good luck.